Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. I'm Laura Ingalls, a member of the Ingalls family that is the subject of the Little House on the Prairie books and now 2 television series.
And I'm Brett Cullum. I actually write a lot about film and television and theater, so I'm along for this ride out west. So here we go.
yeah, he's our entertainment industry expert. So we want to talk today about the first episode, the premiere episode of the new series and how it compares to the original series and the books.
It's episode 1 of the Netflix series, Rebecca Sonenstein's adaptation of Little House on the Prairie. It's called Independence. That's what the beginning, what the first episode is called.
Right.
And it's a reference to where the Ingalls family is going, Independence, Kansas, which is a little bit different than the original series, but pretty true to the book. But the original series, we watched the pilot movie, and it actually is the Independence, Kansas thing. So you will have seen Michael Landon do all of this material that they're going to do in the first season.
Right. Yeah, so the difference between the two, the first television series had a 2-hour movie, and it covered the entire book. And the book I'm talking about is The Little House on the Prairie. This one only covers the first few chapters of the book, but very, very similar in what they chose to show.
Well, and it's interesting because Rebecca Sonenstein actually said she is more of a fan of the books rather than the original Michael Landon series. That was pretty much her impetus. She wanted to return this series back to the books. And there's been a lot of debate on how much of the book is actually in here and how much they are elaborating on or adding on to, making some differences. So we're going to kind of break down that a little bit. But we definitely open with them about to head west, right?
Yeah. So in the book and in the original series, it begins with them leaving Wisconsin and saying goodbye to their family, but that is not the case in the new series. You don't actually see that. So that was one kind of difference in this new season.
Well, I thought the biggest difference was that when you saw it in the pilot movie for the Michael Landon and also in the book, they were surrounded by family, and their family was saying goodbye to them.
Right.
And they were kind of all being wished well and, yay, you're going to a new adventure kind of a thing. But in this one, they particularly make the Ingalls family alone. There's nobody there. There's nobody to say goodbye. And they're very isolated, and they just leave this house that's in the woods, the big house in the woods, I guess, the little house in the big woods. They leave that behind without any kind of
fanfare at all.
Yeah. They go.
Yeah, but some of the things that happen in the early part of the this new series is very similar to what happened in the book, or what was told in the book, and then what happened in the premiere episode of the original 70s series. One of the most notable ones is the crossing of, I guess it's the Missouri River that they were crossing. I don't know that it was ever exactly spelled out, but it was difficult. It was a challenge in all three of the items, the books, the first series, and this one, although some of the details were different. Did you find that to be the case too?
Yeah, I mean, of course, obviously, in this modern era, we can make it a little bit more spectacular.
Yeah.
I think that they really did that. I think that it just had a sense of danger. One of the things I noticed in the Michael Landon version, he doesn't allow Jack the dog to get into the wagon. But in this one, he's already in the wagon. They actually let him in, and I'm sure that that's a nod to how people feel about dogs today.
Yeah, because I will tell you, growing up, my parents would not allow pets in the house. So that was very much a thing. They did not like pets in the house. They thought they belonged outside.
And definitely Caroline gets a lot more action in the Rebecca Sonenstein version, the Netflix version. She's a more active participant in the action, and she almost drowns. And she's hanging on for dear life as the wagon tilts.
Yes.
Water gets in the wagon. You noticed that?
Yeah. So in the book, it said that the wagon bed was watertight, so no water got actually in the wagon. And there was a little bit of subtle differences in each of the 3 depictions of that particular event. In the original book, it was Charles that struggled because the wagon started to float. It was losing its traction on the bottom. And then in the original premiere episode, it was rushing water and pulling Charles underneath the wagon. And in this one, it showed that it got stuck on a rock. So a little bit of differences, and the person impacted in the first 2 was Charles, but in this one, it was really more Carolyn than Charles. But obviously, they made it through.
Yeah. And then, of course, we get them across the river. They meet somebody immediately. They meet Dr. Tan, who kind of notices
which is
they
a
have
separator.
trouble.
Yeah, that's a separator from both the previous books and the original series.
Yeah, Dr. Tan is not a huge series in either the books or the original series. He shows up. He's definitely there, but he's not quite as prominent. So they're really making him much more of a character here, obviously. And then, of course, we get to see Charles going into town with his papers.
Yeah. Going in to secure his land grant. That's what they're there for. He wants to get a piece of land all to his own and then build his farm and raise his family on it. Yeah, and you really don't see that in the books or the original TV series.
Right. They've created Independence, Kansas, and you don't really see those in those other two incarnations of this story. It's unique to Netflix. And there's a scene with Caroline when he goes to get the land grant. She goes into a mercantile store, and they introduce a couple of new characters there. Obviously, the owner of the store, and then Caleb, a boy that she's taken in. They introduce those. Those not in the books or in the Michael Landon series either. So that was kind of interesting to see that, as a part of expanding the world, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the benefits of this series, this new one, they're taking a storyline and they're being able to spread it over more time. So they can add more details to the story that you couldn't have done originally. And even in some cases not put in the book.
Yeah. Well, and then we get to see them select a homestead. They pick a place on the prairie where they're going to build their little house, obviously, and they start doing that. And of course, the labor is just intense and crazy and very physically taxing. I don't think we saw that as much in the 1970s show, the kind of brutal labor of everything. And of course, Caroline getting hurt. All of those kind of things.
Very true to the book. That's what happened. With the exception of, in the book, it explained it that the walls were about halfway up, and in the movie or this series, it was like 2 logs up. So it really wasn't halfway. But in either case, she got injured.
Yeah. But it's interesting that they really are emphasizing the prairie life as being rougher. I think that's the biggest difference that I'm seeing. The original books and the Michael Landon series both kind of have this idyllic kind of life, and it's kind of like this magical, charmed.
Right, they romanticize it.
Yeah, a very romantic view of prairie life.
Of what it was actually like.
Yeah, and they make this one a little bit more rough and tumble, and there's even a scene when I expected Jack to come back, but instead we get wolves. So there you go. And I don't think that was not in the book. Or
it was. They talked about the wolves. Yeah,
but not like in the.
But not like
an organized attack.
In the books, they were there, did talk about them, but you're right. They didn't attack. And then in the original premiere, the Michael Landon version, the wolves were chasing him when he was out hunting, and he had to drop his hunt so that they would attack that and not him get back. Yeah. So the wolves were there. This one was a little bit different in how they portrayed it, but they were there.
Well, they had Caroline taking on the wolves too. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a big difference, obviously, in this new Rebecca Sunstein Netflix version. But I guess one of the things that we all noticed, and you get a sense of the Osage territory in the Indians. They're there from the beginning. There's kind of the Mitchell family, which is a Indian family who's actually gotten a land deed, and they have settled. Obviously, they built a house, and they are part of the town and everything, and that historically really happened. We had Indian people who said, hey, if they're just giving away these land grants to anybody, why don't we take some, and that way we get our own land. Yeah. So people did do that. It's very historically accurate, and something that did not happen in either the Michael Landon series, and it was not addressed in the books as something that happened around them. Right. And of course, the books were more the child's perspective. Right. So we might not have known that. Maybe Charles and Caroline might have known that a little bit differently. Yeah, I'm sure they did. And you're right. It was written by, from a child's point of view, and decades after it actually happened. So the clear understanding of what that was about, Laura may not have known or chosen not to talk about it. Yeah. So what do you think? What do you think about the tone of this one? So I liked it. I found it to be the same storyline with some added elements that weren't in the original book or TV series. It does make it more interesting. I think from my perspective, even though I've talked about this before, so I have a large collection of family memorabilia, and part of that is the photos. And some of those do date back to the 1800s.
Well, over that time, those photos tend to fade and they were grainy to begin with. But now we have the technology where we can take those photos and enhance them where they're clearer and you get a better view of those people. And I've done that with several of the family photos. And I think this kind of follows that as well. We now have the technology where we can bring those stories more to life in a more real world way. And I think that they've done a brilliant job, at least on episode 1. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I definitely think the tone is more realistic. I think that's the emphasis here. And you're right. It's a little bit grittier. It's a little bit harder. It's a little bit more of a struggle. It's more of a survival tale. There's definitely a romantic element of it, but it's not the kind of through a lens of everything is wonderful and we're all in this together kind of a thing, and it's all going to work out.
Yeah, true.
It's a little bit more like, oh my gosh, are they really going to make it? There is that question, that uncertainty, and kind of a moral complexity of here we are coming onto this land where we may or may not be welcome because of the people that live there already. So.
Yeah, and the discussions around that, the duality of those discussions, I find it very interesting, and can't help but think that it's probably true to the time that they actually took place in. Yeah. So yeah, it's very interesting.
Yep.
Historically.
All right. Well, see you in episode 2.
Episode 1, yes.